Now, Solomon MP Luke Gosling's push to bring Aldi to Darwin, it's going to reach another level from what I understand this month. He's going to be heading overseas, I believe, in an effort to change the supermarket giant's mind about doing business in the Northern Territory. Now, I know there's plenty of naysayers out there at the moment who do not believe the supermarket chain's going to head to the Territory. Aldi themselves saying that they've got no plans for the NT, but nonetheless, it looks as though Mr Gosling is forging ahead with his efforts to try and bring them here. He joins me on the line right now. Good morning to you, Luke.
How are you, Katie?
Very well, mate. What is next when it comes to Aldi? How are you going to keep this fight alive?
Yeah, well, I just want to thank everyone who's been really positive. There are a few naysayers here or there, and they just seem to be thinking that the logistics would mean that Aldi wouldn't want to do it. But that's what they said about Queensland as well, and they've opened all the way up to Townsville, and Cairns up there will be next. And, you know, it's been a little bit frustrating to work with Aldi Australia, and that's why last night I was chatting with the German embassy. They're a German company, to try and get some connections over in Germany at the head office. And what we really need to do, I guess, is have a conversation with the Australian CEO. They're going to help me to get some good contacts in there, because we're just being blocked. You know, a lot of companies, they just have the blocking person out the front. In this case, it's a government affairs person. But we've got a really compelling case. Not only is the population in the Greater Darwin area bigger than many places on the East Coast where they've got Aldis, but there's the ability to help up the track.
It comes down to transport as well, though, doesn't it, Luke? Like, I guess that's the hard part. In those places in Queensland, for a lot of them, they're then transporting goods, and it's more economically viable for them. It's a tough ask if the numbers aren't adding up, unless the government's prepared to subsidise.
Katie, how do you reckon from Brisbane they provide goods into their stores as far north as Townsville? Well, they do put them in trucks and send it up the highway, which is exactly what they'll do from Adelaide. And I guess what's been really positive is the amount of people that are keen for Aldi to get to the Territory. And Alice Springs, there's an ability. I'm talking to those that provide goods, groceries out to our communities. There's an ability for Aldi to help us with our food security issues and the high costs of goods out in the communities by working with us to have some drop-offs at Alice Springs and Catherine, so that we can feed cheaper, high-quality goods through the networks that already exist. But
do they reckon the numbers stack up?
That aside, it's still worthwhile. Our market in Darwin and Palmerston, the rural area, is much bigger than some of their other markets.
Look,
so
I would love to see it here,
Katie,
Luke. I'd love to see it here, Luke. But the fact is, if it's not economically viable for a business, I mean, I just don't know, like, how we're going to make it happen. I want it to happen, but I just don't know how.
I guess where we're trying to get to, Katie, is a position where we are able to pitch the locations, the distribution networks that are already in place, because our operators up here in industry, they haven't had those conversations with Aldi yet. So we just want them to be open-minded to the discussion. We want everyone to be open-minded to the discussion and not say that they're a logistics expert. Let's put the case to Aldi, and then they can at least make an informed decision.
So at this point in time, sorry, can I just ask? Well, I know that in Mackay at the moment, I know that, you know, that there are still hurdles there. So I just want to ask at the moment, have you been able to have a chat with anyone from Aldi at this point?
As I said, I've been having conversations with the government affairs person in order to get the pitch. And we've been putting that pitch together as we meet with different people from Darwin and Palmerston from industry to get the pitch to the right person in Aldi. They are renowned for putting up walls. It's very difficult to connect with them. You can't have a phone conversation except through the government affairs person who hasn't been that helpful in setting up that meeting so far. But that's why I'm talking to other stakeholders, including the Australian-German Chamber of Commerce, because it may be that we need to take the pitch, in terms of corporate social responsibility. I think there's a great win for Aldi here in helping us to overcome some of the hurdles that we've seen in getting low-priced, non-perishable goods. So I'm not talking about fresh food out to our remote communities, but certainly people like Alpa really want to have that conversation with Aldi about how they can get, say, 20, 30, 40 lines of goods that can then go out to the communities. If we can make that pitch to Aldi, and it may be that I have to go to the headquarters in Germany to make that happen, then we can get a fuller appreciation so that people aren't, deciding that that it's just not going to work. I remind
but
who
do
Katie,
you think's deciding that it's not going to work? Who do you think's deciding that it's not going to work?
Well, there hasn't been a decision that it's not going to work.
But you just said you're trying to meet with them because there's others that are deciding that it's not going to work.
I remind you and your listeners again, Katie, of the good news that Queensland is. They said we have no plans for Mackay.
Yeah, but it's so different, Luke. But Mackay's so different, and even Brisbane Brisbane to Townsville's 1,300 kilometres, Adelaide to Darwin's 3,000. It's just so different. And there's people messaging through this morning going, Katie, why is this what our federal member is focused on? Could he be more focused on actually trying to do other things to bring down the cost of living?
Can I just thanks for the opportunity to remind everyone that not only is everyone getting a tax cut, $300 off power bills, cheaper medicines, free tape, and the whole range of other things we're doing on cost of living, is that I just laugh, Katie, when people say, the federal member should be working on something else, as if I'm not continually working on 50 things at least at any one time. This is just one of them, and this just happens to be really worthwhile because we all hope so. Want some more choice.
We all hope so. We do. Absolutely, we do. Absolutely, we do want more choice.
Katie, if I can just get a word in.
Well, mate, you're not letting me talk, Luke. You actually sound quite rude this morning, if I'm honest with you. I'm trying to ask you questions, and you're not actually listening. You're talking over the top of me. I'm asking you whether you've met with Aldi. You said you haven't. I'm trying to ask you how you're going to meet with Aldi, and you won't even let me get the opportunity to ask you that question.
No, you're right, mate. Is that the question, how are we going to meet with Aldi?
Yeah, you don't even... It sounds to me like you're not able to.
That's what I'm... So what we're trying to do at the moment is get the case together and get the meeting with Aldi headquarters in Australia. What I'm finding is that there's blockers that aren't enabling us to do that. So I'm currently talking through different people in Germany who are connected into the parent company because it sounds like they're quite centralised. But in Mackay, if that's an example, Aldi was saying they have no plans for Mackay up until a month before they announced that they're going to open in Mackay. So the fact that Aldi has no plans at this time doesn't mean that there's not going to be any plans. What I'm trying to do is meet with the Aldi CEO so we can at least pitch the benefits not only for our customers and the Territorians, but the benefits for Aldi. How does Officeworks manage to have a presence in Darwin? How does McDonald's? How does Bunnings? How do any of these large companies, and let's face it, Aldi is a large company, they've all been able to overcome the logistic barriers. We think that Aldi will be able to overcome the logistic barriers, and a big part of it is having the public behind us. And having people in industry behind
that's
us.
not the only part of it. It's got to stack up for a business. I want Aldi in the Northern Territory. I want them to come to the Northern Territory. But, if we're still putting together a business case and we've got them locally in Australia not even wanting to meet with us. I just don't know whether it's going to happen or not. I hope you're able to make it happen. Do not get me wrong. I hope you're able to make it happen, but I think we've got to be realistic about it as well. Luke, before I let you go, there has been a lot of discussion over the last couple of weeks in the Northern Territory about NT legal aid having to cut services because of a lack of funding. Is the federal government prepared to meet with the Northern Territory government over this and look at increasing their funding?
Yeah, I'm sure our Attorney General, Mark Dreyfus, is in touch with Marie-Claire Boothby. He's got a partnership agreement, right, between the federal government and the NT government, and that runs out of the next financial year. It's obvious that because the NT government seems to be withdrawing funding that they've agreed to provide to legal aid centres, that legal aid centres are going to have to reduce the services they're providing. But we haven't, at the federal level, withdrawn any money at all.
No, do you reckon that there's more money needed? Yeah, absolutely it has. Absolutely. We've put those questions to them. Well, look, they're going to have to jack up. Well, Luke, let's be honest about it, mate. I'm not too sure why you're being so confrontational this morning, but let's be honest about it. The Labor government was in for the last 8 years. The CLP government's been in for a month, and they've obviously discovered that that NT legal aid's in the situation that they're in. Now, the perspective that I'm coming at this from is that victims of crime are potentially going to have a situation where cases are held up because people aren't able to get legal representation. Even those that commit crimes are entitled to legal representation. So however you look at it, we can all blame each other. We can blame whoever. I can blame the former government if you'd like me to, but we need to get to the table and sort this out for the betterment of all Northern Territorians.
Well, the former NT government didn't withdraw funding from legal aid.
No one's saying they withdrew funding, but we are saying there's not enough funding.
So I think that is what they've got to answer, and I'm sure that the Attorney General at the federal level will be talking to the NT Attorney General about any withdrawal funding that's happening at the NT level and why that's happening, but also they'll need to renegotiate a partnership for the next financial year. But in the current financial year, which ends at the end of June 2025, the federal government will provide the funding that it's committed to provide. If there's a lack of services due to the NT government withdrawing funding, that's something that they have to answer. But I can see already that they're trying to back away from the education funding for our public schools around the Territory. If the NT government is going to withdraw funding from our public schools, again, those will be questions for the NT government Minister for Education.
Well, I hope not for education. I hope for justice, by the sounds of it, if it is indeed for NT legal aid or for the Attorney General.
For the Attorney General, cuts to education funding are questions for the NT Minister for Education.
All right, I'm not sure how we went across there, but anyway, Luke Gosling, thanks for your time this morning. Much appreciated. We'll leave it there.
Good on you.